Okay, so I'm really enjoying these walk and talk or walk and tech series because I get to talk about the technology that I like, get my thoughts off my chest. And today I want to talk about the Powerbeats Pro from Apple from the perspective of an Android user. So I've been using this for a few months, and I'll go over my experiences with them from all aspects that I would need them for. The reason I even thought about getting them, being an Android user, is that I really needed a pair of active headphones for some of my workouts. I was using the Jabra Elite 65 Ts, and I know there's an active version of those, but my issue with them wasn't the waterproofing, which my version didn't have. It was mainly that they kind of slipped out of the ears when there was too much sweat. So with that sweat, I kept having to push them back in and had the most unpleasant suction cup sound. And I really was getting annoyed at that. So these headphones, I found out about them despite being Beats. There were a few reviewers online who were notorious for bashing Beats headphones who said these were actually quite decent. Now, I'm not sure if their sound signatures changed when they were acquired by Apple, but they seem to have reduced the amount of emphasis in the bass frequencies that Beats are known for. But these are geared towards Apple users, being an Apple product. Other than their color scheme, which is black, they immediately pair with iPhones. So when you actually have the case open near an iPhone, the case battery and the headphone battery displays right on the screen. It's kind of a neat little feature. It doesn't happen on Android, and you don't get any battery signals at all on Android. Today we're here on the west side of Central Park. We're turning on 100th Street. It's actually a hot day for October 2nd. It's supposed to get to 90 degrees today, then it all immediately cools down from tomorrow on. So while the pairing process isn't as good on Android as it is on iPhone, it's still very, very, very clear and easy. You just hold the pairing button right here for a few seconds until it's in pairing mode, and then you can pair the whole thing up with your Android phone. Initially, I had very good results with these headphones for my intended use. I use them on the staircase in my building where I do a lot of my workouts. It's an odd workout. I don't do it outdoors, but it keeps me very sweaty. And I use a weight vest, so it keeps me extra sweaty. And headphones really don't do well with salt water. I mean, most waterproof or water-resistant devices don't do very well with salt water. Like the ocean, wouldn't recommend putting your phones in there if you don't have to, because they may or may not survive. Okay, so once I paired them up with my Android phone, used them a little bit on the stairs, they were doing great. The issues came when I was using them outside. So I tend to keep both of my phones in my front right pants pocket. And having the headphones connected to that and walking outside, it gets very finicky when there's a lot of people around. So normally in a park like this, I can have it in my pocket, have it in my backpack, in my jacket, whatever, no problem. There's no breakup in the sounds. But as soon as I get to a heavily populated area like Fifth Avenue, 59th Street, a lot of tourists, a lot of people with devices, it immediately gets very, very spotty. So at first, it's not even that the connection gets disconnected. At first, it kind of starts with an echo. So it's almost as if the two headphones are out of sync, and one is just a millisecond ahead of the other. So that's the first indication of any connection issue. Once that occurs, then you know you already have a problem. As it gets more congested, it actually completely drops connection until I take the phone out of my pocket and hold it right in front of my face, and then it works better. Surprisingly, when the Google Pixel 3 XL that I have was upgraded to Android 10, it actually did improve Bluetooth performance a little bit, kind of going along the same lines with the Bluetooth not being so great on Google's Android devices, but that did improve it. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long. First couple of weeks it worked great, and then it just started to become the same kind of a mess. I didn't really test it so much with my iPhone, but I did read reports of other iOS users having that, and there was a recent update to the firmware on these headphones, and that did not change much for me. I know it was misleading almost. Anyway, they overall work great for my purposes. I just can't use them in heavily populated areas if I'm just walking, commuting in between work locations. So those are my initial gripes with the connection. The fit of the headphones is great. They're secure. I can do whatever I want. I can do backflips, not that I can, but I could learn, and they wouldn't fall out of my ears, no problems. They're comfortable. I don't get any ear fatigue from it being in my ear, and the little rubber hook that sits on top doesn't cause any issues. Of note, there's no active noise cancellation on these, and there's no real passive noise cancellation either, or isolation, because they don't seal inside your ear like the ones that use your ear to stay in do. Because these have the hook around their top, they actually don't need that extra suction power, so they work okay for sound isolation. But again, being active headphones, you're meant to use them outside. You don't really want to be very isolated because, you know, there's a lot of cars, bikes. You want to be aware and hear any alert sounds from cars and bikes. In terms of audio quality, this is a test of the Powerbeats Pro phone call audio quality using a Google Pixel 3 XL, calling an iPhone, leaving a voicemail. I've had very, very positive results for me. I don't prefer the very bassy sound signature like I used to in the past. I would have loved the Beats headphones had I used them maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. When I was in high school, I really loved Logitech Z560 speakers, which had very boomy bass before I knew anything about bass at all. But these, I feel like I have a much more even sound signature. I prefer a very neutral one, and of course I can use an equalizer to adjust it as needed. The Central Park is usually pretty quiet on a weekday, but it's also 92 degrees today, or 90 degrees. So a lot of people are gonna come out, I'm sure. Leaves are changing already. It's October. Good example here. I believe it's a maple tree. And there's an oak tree right next to it, to the right. Interestingly, I thought I took a completely different route in the park, and I somehow ended up the same exact way I usually go. As most headphones do of this type, they actually sit in the case with magnets, and while it keeps them in the case pretty well, they don't fall out. There are these metallic contact points for how it charges in the case, and for whatever reason, the one on the right side, I had it in my ear. It doesn't always register as charging, so when it registers as charging, it's supposed to blink, and if it's red, that means it needs a lot more recharging time, but it doesn't always register. So if I were to put it in my backpack, I might shake it around a little bit, and it causes some issues. And then I don't know until I look at my phone, it says it's actually connected to my phone. But it's just, might be maybe something's wrong with my contact points, and maybe my sweat did corrode them somehow, I'm not sure. But if I don't put them in the case immediately after working out, it usually functions a lot better. So that's one of the things I've had to start doing. And that's putting them on my desk for a little while they dry off after a workout. And then I can put them in the case, and as long as I'm careful and make sure I have good contact, it actually works fine. In terms of the battery life, I've had no issues with it. As long as they're charged up, unless that weird contact issue happens where it's not charging in the case, as long as they charge up, they work just fine. And you get plenty of time in both of these, even if you have them on all day. I believe you can get up to 9 hours without putting them in the case, and then the case gives you up to 24 hours total use. So unless you have a power bank in your backpack, you can always keep these topped off without any problems. And that's essentially my thoughts on the Beats headphones, Powerbeats Pros, which are a decent set of headphones. Great for my use. We'll see if any other firmware updates improve their stability. For now, they work for my needs. And they'll probably continue to work for my needs until some better active headphones come out that are sweat resistant and also have a very secure fit. I've been enjoying doing these walk-in techs. I'll keep doing them. I'm still going to do the Pixel 4 when it comes out. Might even do a separate unboxing of that, as I'm very excited for that phone. But thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.